Let's dive a bit deeper into the if conditional or the if statement. In order to do that, let's bring up Sublime again. We're going to enter some JavaScript code, and then we're going to execute it with the HTML page that we have attached that JavaScript page to. So first off, let's declare a variable. We'll use this variable in our first if conditional. We're not going to assign it a value, we're simply going to declare it. Now let's take a look at an if statement that could be used to determine if this variable has a value or not. A logical situation for this would be a website where you're keeping track of a user. You want to see if a value has been entered for a user. We always start with if, and then in parentheses we include the conditional statement. We need to check something. That's what the purpose of the parentheses is. In this case, we're checking the username variable. So we enter username, and then we want to see if it's equal to undefined. So we're going to use the strict equality operator, and then we simply type undefined. So that's our conditional statement. It consists usually of a variable, then an operator, and then some value. That's not always the case. We'll look at some other examples a little bit later on. But generally you're going to include some sort of operator when you're testing the value. Alright, once you've done the conditional statement inside the parentheses, you then enter the curly braces. This first set of curly braces, this code will execute if the conditional evaluates to true. So if the username is equal to undefined, then we're simply going to log a message to the console that says user is not defined. And then we'll conclude that with a semicolon. Now what if the user is defined? What if the conditional evaluates to false? Well, that's where we put the else statement, else clause of the if statement. We then use curly braces again. In this case, we will log to the console the message user is, and then we will also concatenate the username so we can print out who the user is. Alright, so that's a simple if statement that we've done. Let's go ahead and save that. We're going to open that up by opening this HTML page. So let me paste the path in, and now let's display the console. Now I've docked the console to the bottom so we can see what's going on. So first it indicates user is not defined. Alright, that's what we expected, because if we look at the code, we did not define a user. But let's say that now the username variable gets set to some value, and that with a semicolon. Now what will we see? Once we refresh this page, we will see the username is James. And so there's our first if conditional or if statement. Alright, I'm going to comment this out. In Sublime I can do that by selecting everything and then entering command and the slash. And it will comment out every line. That way I don't have to go to each line and comment that out. And now let's do a second exercise with a conditional statement. So I'm going to define a variable num and set that equal to 5. Okay, we're going to do a conditional to determine if this number is even or odd. Obviously looking at it we can tell, but what if we needed the program to determine whether it was even or odd? This is the way we could do that. So first I'm creating a second variable and I'm setting that equal to num modulo 2. Remember the modulus operator, it returns the remainder. So in this case we know this is going to return a 1 int mod. So now let's do our if statement. If mod is equal to 0, if it's equal to 0, that means the number is even. So we're going to log to the console. We're going to log the contents of the variable and also indicate whether it's even or odd. So now we'll do our else portion and log to the console that num is odd. And put our semicolon in. All right, let's go ahead and see how that one works. I'm going to save that. I'm going to jump to the browser. Let's go ahead and refresh it. Looks like we made a mistake in the code. Notice uncaught reference error. Console log is not defined. Based on looking this, it looks like I did not enter console.log correctly. I did not enter a period there. Sure enough, I should have been able to see that before I saved it and jumped out to the browser. Let's go back to the browser again. Go ahead and refresh. 5 is an odd number, it tells us. Okay, so let's change the value of that to something that's even. Save it, jump back, refresh. 12 is an even number. All right, so we've had 2 examples of if conditionals. In both cases, the operator we've used in the conditional statement has been an equality operator. Now notice in some of these we could have done just the opposite. We could have used the inequality operator. Here, if mod is not equal to 0, then we would first log that it's an odd number, else we would log it's an even number. So we could have done the same thing with an inequality operator.